Well, creating an annual fundraising plan is an essential part of building a sustainable organization. If you want to be sustainable, you have to have a plan in place that helps you get through the entire year. So we're going to talk about some of the tools and strategies and tactical things that you can do to make that possible and to continue running operations without stress and anxiety. You don't want your people having a heart attack during the year because they don't know if they're going to get paid next week. Okay, so we've got key components to consider when developing a powerful annual resourcing plan. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7, Paul exhorted the believers in the church to give what they've decided to give in their heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, but to give with a cheerful heart. For God loves a cheerful giver. Pam and I went to a church when we first were married in Charlotte, North Carolina, where they implemented a little program. Every time they announced that they were going to take the offering, the church was to erupt in applause and thanksgiving. And at first it was awkward and a little weird, but then each Sunday after he said, now we're going to take the offering. And we all went, ah! It was great. I loved it. 1 Chronicles 29:3. I think I read this verse when we were talking about a capital campaign. And now, because of my devotion to the temple of my God, I'm giving all of my own private treasures of gold and silver to help in the construction. This is in addition to the building materials I have already collected for his temple. How about that? Is that a great example? If you're going to ask people to give toward your organization, should you be giving to your own organization? Of course. We have a great example right there. In 1 Corinthians 16, Paul, the Apostle Paul, said, with regard to the collection for the saints, please follow the directions that I gave to the churches of Galatia. On the first day of the week, each of you should set aside some income and save it to the extent that God has blessed you, so that a collection will not have to be made when I come. Then, when I arrive, I'll send those whom you approve with letters of explanation to carry your gift to Jerusalem. And if it seems advisable that I should go also, they will go with me. Again, another principle that you guys will want to bring back to your own country, your own city, is the idea of generosity, of giving. I know I've had some conversations, I've heard this from years, through years. Europe we don't give like that. People aren't used to making donations. They don't give like that. It's almost like, look, just stop talking to us about giving because that's not what we do over here. Well, wait a minute. This is a biblical mandate to be generous toward God. Be generous toward the church? Yes. In the U.S., obviously, we have thousands and thousands of parachurch ministries, but you guys have parachurch ministries here. How will you resource those if you're not asking people to be generous? 2 Corinthians 8:9. Again, Paul speaking. Now we make known to you, brothers and sisters, the grace of God given to the churches of Macedonia, that during a severe ordeal of suffering, their abundant joy and their extreme poverty have overflowed in the wealth of their generosity. For I testify they gave according to their means and beyond their means. They did so voluntarily, and they did this not just as we had hoped, but they gave themselves first to the Lord and to us by the will of God. There's a lot of authority coming out of Paul's pen when he's writing these letters. So I encourage you guys to try shifting your mindset. Maybe your mindset doesn't need to be shifted. Maybe the mindset of some of the people around you needs to shift a little. So you as leaders will encourage them. You'll encourage them to think biblically and encourage the other people around them to be generous and to think differently. How can this get done with God's Holy Spirit directing you? And finally, in 1 Timothy 6, verse 17 through 19, command those who are rich in this world's goods not to be haughty or to set their hope on riches, which are uncertain, but on God, who richly provides us with all things for our enjoyment. Tell them to do good, to be rich in good deeds, to be generous givers, sharing with others. In this way, they'll save up a treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the future and so lay hold of what is truly life. Paul uses a format that's very common in my world when I'm raising money, and that is to continually point people towards being like God by being generous. Be like God, be generous, be giving. As you think about helping others understand an annual resourcing plan, it turns out you're going to be more like pastors than beggars. You're not going to be begging. You're not begging anybody. You're going to come to them to exhort them in the truth. We're going to jump into this, getting into your annual resourcing plan. And I love this scripture verse. It cracks me up. It's out of Ecclesiastes 10. But for us fundraisers, a feast is made for laughter. Wine makes life merry, and money is the answer for everything. So if people say, why are you asking me for money all the time? Well, look, money's the answer for everything. Let's get on now. As I'd mentioned, creating a good strategy and plan is going to be your foundation, and it's going to be essential for sustainability and growth. So if you want sustainability and growth, you're going to probably want to build an effective annual plan. Here are the 7 components to consider when you're building your fundraising strategy. Number 1, we got to talk about your governance and your structure. Who is on the board? Do you have a board of directors or an advisory committee? How do you involve your board in the activities? How are influential people in your community part of what you're trying to accomplish? How do you train your board? There's lots of research. We could have our own network on just board development and training and utilization. But it's an important question for you to start thinking about. Thankfully, we have the internet nowadays, and there's no shortage of information on these things. But it's an important part of the beginning, is the board needs to be supporting you. If you're a board member, you need to be supporting your executive director, and good governance helps avoid traps and pitfalls. So you want people that understand. Maybe that's why everybody has a lawyer on their board, it seems like, because legally they understand what some of the problems could be and avoid litigation, avoid problems. Okay, and so that goes to training and equipping them. Secondly, set clear and achievable goals. This seems intuitive, but we got to talk about it. How are you aligned? How's the organization going to be structured? How are you going to build your culture of your organization? Is going to be dependent on if you have a top-down model or if you have a very flat model. Are you going to ask people to raise support for themselves to bring more and more people involved? There's different types of structures and ways to go about this, so it needs to be thought through. And your fundraising program is going to have several categories, which we'll talk about today, but multifaceted and appealing to all different types of people. If you're only going to appeal to one type of person, then you're limiting yourself to that, and that's fine as long as you recognize that's your strategy. I am only talking to engineers. That's it. We don't want to talk about any of these other people, but I might try to convince you that it may not be the best way to go. Okay. When people give to your organization, this is a little hint. Actually, I forgot to mention this to you guys, but I had a workshop yesterday afternoon where we went through the 7 fundamentals of raising money. And I gave that group some icebreakers and some comments on very practical ways to talk to people. For instance, asking permission to make an ask of somebody. Felipe, we have a great relationship. I've cherished our time. Thank you for supporting us. I'd like to ask you a question about something that we're doing, to ask you to be a part of it, but I want you to feel free to say no to it without worrying about any change in our relationship. So I just wanted to start with that. Is that okay? Okay. I'd like you to give $1 million. We're doing the thing. That's very important. Okay? So that's just a little thing, but I have a whole long list of these. How do you even get started talking about when it's going to switch over to money? And what I told that group yesterday is, look, you're probably not super close with all these people that you're asking for money. You're probably not going to their daughter's wedding and the funerals and all those things, but you have a relationship. it's a real relationship. It is a real relationship, but it is a professional relationship. So therefore, and they know that too. If you say, Barbara, we need to go have some coffee because there's some exciting things that I want to talk to you about. And then when you meet with Barbara for coffee, you're talking about her kids and her job and how her surgery turned out and all those fine things. And then you say, at one point, Barbara, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that we're doing some things that are really exciting and I'd like you to be a part of it. So just saying I wouldn't be doing my job lets her know, oh, that's right, she is a professional. This is what she does for a living. Okay, I'm listening. So I have a long list of these, and I joked with Pam that I probably should just write them down and have a little book because they're so helpful. And the way that I coached my team in the past was giving them a lot of those things. Because every time you meet with somebody that's the big businessman in the city, this is your opportunity. You don't get 2 bites at that apple. You have to come in, be bright, be brief, be super funny, or be super interesting. Be very enthusiastic about what you're doing. Be prepared. And then how can you frame the conversation when you go into those meetings? Okay, that's major gift development. But when you meet with people, they are going to be examining all the things that you do and your communications, your marketing materials, some of the other team members that they've run across, and all these things are inputs, and then they're making a decision about what they think that your organization can handle as far as a gift. They may be able to give you £1 million a year, every year, but you're only getting £1,000 every year. That's so funny to say pounds. Are we in the UK? But they're intuitively going, I don't think that this organization is ready for $1 million. There's only 3 people working there. They have a small vision. I'm not going to give them $1 million because that's not a wise thing for me to do. So it's important for you guys to recognize when you go in, the more that you're prepared, the more that you've built a sustainable company, then you'll have a better chance to succeed. Well, by setting clear and achievable goals, this is a standard. Has anybody seen SMART goals? It's a kind of a standard tool. Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. And you should probably be running your programs through this grid to say, do we actually have achievable goals? Our budget's $5 million. We only know 12 people that collectively have $1 million. Well, those might not be great. You say, well, the Lord's going to provide the rest. Don't presume on the Lord. He gave us brains, and he will surprise us regularly. But we got to at least think about, are these, when our fundraising efforts are more structured, they're going to be more effective. They're going to be more inspiring. We're going to have more confidence. Our team's going to feel better. All right, now we are talking about a tool that every good organization needs to have. You have to be organized. You have to have, again, a good, solid foundation to build your team and to build your messaging and your organization. And it's one of them is, well, it's a software system. I expect some of you are going to be using some of these CRM systems, customer relationship management. They drive people crazy. They've driven me crazy through the years, like this guy. But you need to keep slugging it out. These are some of the popular, larger CRM systems. Blackbaud is huge. They have Razor's Edge software system. Salesforce is probably the biggest public company. HubSpot, enormous. And I'm pretty sure these are international organizations, so it's not just in the US. But I did find Bittrex24. Is that something anybody recognizes from Europe? Well, I certainly don't know. Donor Perfect, another one that seemed to be in Europe. But you can find your own systems and then explore these. And then Virtuous is one that's based in Phoenix that we happen to be friends with the CEO. TeachFlora was another one that seemed to be in the international space.
Which one is your favorite?
None of them. I don't like any of them. But you have to have them. You have to use them. And the reason...
You can choose and you're the decision maker. Which one would you choose?
Well, I would choose Virtuous because I'm an investor, so I want to see them succeed, and we'll just painfully go through whatever we need to go through because it might pay off. We could talk for an hour on this, and they make me crazy. But the fact of the matter is they are built as enterprise systems because it is a very complex thing. If you want to do it well, you need to be organized. Now, if you're just a one-man shop and you can keep it all on Excel, that's fine. But these things have developed because they automate systems, automate processes, receipting, marketing, communications, events follow-up, a variety of things, let alone how you manage and communicate with all of your donors. Big, major donors, smaller donors, you're communicating them in an effective way. So we can talk more about that, but it's important to recognize that those systems are there because they help manage your workflow, and they ultimately are going to be the determining factor of how you move to the next level. They even have systems where they are going to tell you wealth indicators who are in your region, who's in your community that has a lot of money. We all know that everybody has all our information. Does everybody know that? Is there anybody in here that does not know that all your information is already out there? Okay, good. It's like The Matrix. Has anybody see that movie, The Matrix? Yeah. Do you want to see what's really going on, or do you want to live in your fantasy world? Anyway, these systems oftentimes will have the capability of letting you know who the best targets are in your place. And that means who they may have given to Christian organizations. And you go, oh, I didn't even realize that. And then you can start to be strategic about how you invite other people into your world. Marketing and communications, we'll spend a little bit of time here. This is, once again, to be sustainable, you want to be consistent in this area, and so important. These are the first things you're going to want to be able to do. Just fundamentally build your calendar of events before each year that you go into. You're going to say, okay, here's what we're doing. We're going to be doing these things, marketing and public relations throughout the year. And we're going to do them at these intervals. For instance, you're going to come up to the end of the year. Is there a time in Europe where people tend to give more than other times? So you're going to want to be aware of that if it's summer, or if it's Christmas time, or there's Giving Tuesday, or there's some of these things that you want to think through. When are they inclined to be generous? Maybe uncharacteristically. Be aware, and then work backward from that time frame so that you can build your communications appropriately. Again, it might be around events in your own country, or holidays, or all sorts of things. Okay, then you have matching gifts, and I didn't talk about that too much, but a lot of corporations will give, or they'll give matching for what their employees give. They do this to create morale and long-term relationships with their own employees, to say, if you have a charity that you'd like to give to, we'll match that. And that's a great benefit. A lot of people get really enthusiastic about that. But you would like to know that because it's just free money waiting. So find out about some of those things. And then reoccurring giving is something, again, that your CRM system will help you, and your website needs to be optimized so that when somebody's going to give, it can happen really seamlessly, and they can make it an annual donation, which is really helpful for you. If somebody's going to give €20 each month, you can count on that. It's annual reoccurring revenue. The CRM system is going to help you manage pledges. Somebody said, I'll give you 1,000. And by the way, as a fundraiser, you want people to make commitments. They don't have to give it to you right now. They don't have to write you a check while you're sitting there, but you can say, would you consider doing $1,000 over the course of this year? Is that something you would consider doing? And then they say, yeah, I will consider that. And then you need to follow up. Hey, it turns out we have 12 people that are going to do $1,000. Are you good for yours? Did you come up with a solution or an answer? And they go, yeah, again, it's all about building momentum. In the States, because the tax year ends on December 31st, there's a big push. Many ministries have 20-25% of their annual fund will come in just in the month of December. So we have to do a good job of communicating in November, leading up to that end of the year. That's why I say it's important to know if there's big events in your areas that you can start to put on your calendar, your marketing calendar, so that you're not surprised and constantly doing the urgent Chinese fire drill. Is that a thing in Europe? Do you guys have that? You don't have a Chinese fire drill? Oh, well, it's sort of a fun thing we learned as kids is that you can pull up to a stoplight and do a Chinese fire drill, and everybody in the car hops out of the car and runs around the car and then gets back in, and we just called that a Chinese fire drill. But it's also when everything's out of control, and you go, it was a Chinese fire drill. We had no idea what was going on. Everybody was running around. So you don't want that to be the way that you're raising money. You want to have a consistent plan. And I can't overstate this. Try to think creatively about ways. Did I tell you to put yourself in your donor's shoes? Have I said that yet? I can't remember if I have or not. What would be something that would delight you and just be unexpected? Keep thinking about those things as it relates to your ministry. You know, you're not going to delight them by inviting to an event and then give them a massage. That would be weird. That would be awkward, but there might be something that really fits. Fundraising is about relationships, and again, you might not know everybody really well, but, and I'd encourage you, by the way, if you haven't already, to friend me in the app so that we can, have some collaboration, and you have my email, so you're welcome to email me. That's the beginning of a relationship. So to the degree that you have relationships with people, somebody responded to your newsletter, that's a relationship. So now you have relationships. And if you're going to fundraise out of the States, which I would encourage all of you to do, I mean, nothing would make me happier than for you to ask me to be a part of your organization. Be happy. I have to check with my wife to see if we can do it. But I would be so encouraged and so proud of you for asking because of the scripture verses that I read at the beginning. God wants us to be generous. We want to be generous. You should be happy to ask people, hey, we have something I think you will be blessed to be a part of. We're saving the world over here. Okay, so Andrew, I think the answer is anybody in the States, you can send a message to them. You can do a variety of different things, but even you don't have to get them all together. This is the creativity part, is to say, and I would always bounce this. I always use people as a sounding board. Here's what I'm thinking of doing. I'd like to have a Zoom call. I hate Zoom calls, but I'd like to do a Zoom call with people. We have 12 people that are like you, Jerry. They're just like you. And I want to get you guys together to talk about something important. But we're going to do it. They live in Chicago, New York, Atlanta, and whatever. What's a couple of days that work for you? And then you got to be ready. Be on your game. And then you get them all on the phone. You've got them there. So now you got to delight them, okay? It's just the way it goes. But there's a variety of ways. Some people just do the old barnstorming tour, which is to say you're just visiting. You're doing a big loop around Slovenia. Is that a country? Mm-hmm. Slovakia is a country.
You combine Transylvania with
We'll take a minute to talk a little bit about video. This happens to be part of a campaign called He Gets Us, and it's $1.5 billion that this organization that Pam and I happen to be familiar with them, and they are doing a provocative ad campaign to introduce Jesus to people that wouldn't go to church ever. But I just wanted to use this as an example of how video can really captivate your audience. Storytelling is a very important part of what you do. That's all you're doing is telling stories. And frankly, that's what we do every day. When we talk to people, we're telling stories. Very important, and this is why we could spend 3 hours just talking about this alone. But I wanted to at least touch on it because it's in the marketing part of our discussion about your annual fund. Is you have to develop your calendar, think through the sorts of things that you're going to be doing, and then we'll talk a little bit about using artificial intelligence right now. But that video is an important thing because it's important for you to recognize that video in 2023, not even 2024, in 2023, video accounted for over 80% of all internet traffic around the globe. And it went up last year. I have no doubt that it went up. So this is ubiquitous. Everybody has a phone. They're watching videos. They're watching short videos. Okay, so try not to make your video 25 minutes long unless it's that type of video. You do need to use video to convey your message. So and Gabrielle, you sent me a video. They have a wonderful capital campaign going on there. It was wonderful. Loved seeing that. But they can always be better, and you always are testing, and you're always asking people what worked, what didn't work. The He Gets Us ads have, like I said, they become really provocative because they're appealing to a different group of people. So the church has had a lot of comments too, and different people are saying something, but what's the goal? You have to start with the goal and the end in mind. So these are examples of some AI stuff. And if you're not using AI, you got to start using it because it's coming and it's not going to go away just because you're not using it. So start to dabble in it. These are images created like this, and it's all about the prompt that you use, right? But image generation, you can create videos. I'll show you this video I created in 12 minutes. But there's some drawbacks to AI. When you want it to make something for you, oftentimes it doesn't do it right. So you got to learn and grow, and you don't need to worry. I told the group in the media track that are filmmakers, a lot of them, and producers and radio and podcasts and all this. I told them you don't need to worry about AI taking your job. You need to worry about the person that knows how to use AI taking your job. But this is a common problem with AI's hands. It's hard for AI to get the hands right. So there's 6 fingers, there. But there's tools. I am a subscriber to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT has its own add-ons that you can click, and then it will use AI to pair with those apps like Storyboard or Storyblocks that makes videos for you. So it used to be that in any kind of organization, you go, we need a video. You always need a video. Whether you're a for-profit or non-profit, you need videos. Now you can start to use videos and produce them and have them ready to go. In 2 hours, you can have something really well done. And that's something that you're going to want to be using on social media. You want to use it in all the different channels. For your website, you want a video there that shows who you are, because video is so powerful. It communicates so much in a short amount of time. Corporations, government funding. I mentioned matching funds. That's something to explore. There's going to be a different thing, and I'm anxious to hear you give some feedback on this. I said the CRM systems can oftentimes identify corporations that provide matching funds too. So again, explore if you don't already have a system, they can be very pricey. It's based on what your size organization can utilize right now. Well, and yesterday when we talked a little bit about events, I mentioned be creative. Was yesterday events? It's starting to blur. You may be able to talk to a business about something that they do that they don't mind donating certain things because it doesn't cost them anything. Or it's just part of, they'd be happy to do it because they know you. And then you can put that into your fundraiser. You never know. So think creatively, innovatively, but there is ways that you can work within the system that you have. You're, of course, encouraging people to be generous because that's a good thing, but you also can work within the system that you have. And I just think a lot of it is determination and tenacity, and that's going to come from the passion you have for the mission that you're in. If you're thinking about how does God, He's not going to keep this a mystery. You want to do the things that you're involved with. You want to see them succeed. There's ways to do it. And if you find something that works, please share it with each other and share it with me. Okay, legacy gifts and planned giving. This is the pinnacle of your whole plan of your big playbook or your blueprint for fundraising is legacy gifts and planned giving. And again, these gifts tend to flow out of a sense of confidence that they know that you can handle and your organization is enduring. It's not gonna be gone tomorrow. They have confidence that you're going to be there a while. So these are the ones that are built into people's estate plans, or they have set up complex tax shelters, trusts, and foundations that they can give out of. So once you've gotten to the point where you've earned their confidence and trust, then they go, I love what you're doing. You guys are going to be here for a long time. I want my kids and my grandkids to see what you guys are doing and to see the growth and the change and the impact. And therefore, we have put you in our will. When somebody tells you that they put you in their will, you should throw a parade for them. You've reached the top now, but the thing is you've got to keep that parade going because they could take you out of their will the next year. But it's much harder to get new people to give to you than to take care of the ones that are already doing it. So take care of those people. I will say, with that said, there are some people that are really a pain, and you can let them go. But mostly you just want to be really gracious and friendly, and if anybody's supporting your organization, that's wonderful. So a planned gift is any kind of charitable contribution to your organization that's going to come in the future. That's a planned gift. So it could be all sorts of different things. They could say, I am quite literally, I'm going to give you guys my house when I pass away. Okay, there's ways to manage that process. And then through trust, various kinds of real estate transactions. It's up to you guys to understand the landscape of your country. How do people pass along wealth? Because if their heart has been captured by the Lord and your ministry, then they're going to be open for some ideas to do good. Because as we know in Scripture, you put your heart. I know this verse like the back of my hand. Your treasure where your heart is. Somebody help me out, Matthew. And I think I have mentioned this before, but if you're not thanking the people that are giving to you, you are committing organizational suicide. You have to thank them many times in different ways. And not in a patronizing, weird way, but in an authentic way. It's never going to go out of style. And it's just a part of the fundraising process. It's part of the going around home plate. You remember that bad illustration I gave you guys on baseball? It is part of the process of raising money. So do it in unique ways. And if you have a ministry with kids, you're going to want your kids to write a thank you note. ELF is doing it, right? You've heard them say, anybody on scholarship, you get to go write a thank you note, and those will go to people that have provided scholarships.